And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorns, Highland cattle, horses, and white-tailed deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Johnny Hicks from Hicks Longhorns. Johnny and his wife, Missy, have been raising Longhorns in Michigan since 2006. Hey, Johnny, thanks for joining us today.
How's it going?
We're good. How about you?
Oh, ready for some warmer weather.
We hear you. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about Hicks Longhorns and about you and Missy and your family?
Well, Missy and I have 5 kids ranging from 5 years old to 15 years old. 4 boys, 1 girl. We run about anywhere between 80 and 100 head of Longhorn, depending on the time of year. I have a job in town. We're a single income family, and then we farm on the side.
Sounds like you all keep busy with 4 kids and jobs and Longhorns.
Yeah, 5 kids, and I only own 40 of my own acres. I lease another 40 for pasture, and then I have about 120 acres I lease for crops.
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
We raise most of our feed.
So today we're going to talk about how you sell locally and the things you do with new breeders. Are you ready to get started?
Yep.
Okay. Can you give us the rundown on how you categorize your herd? If I remember right, last time we talked, there's a couple different ways that you do that.
Yep, there is. The main 2 ways I do is I have a 100% Butler herd, and then I have a blend herd. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the main dividing line. I also do it by age group and families. So I have I spent the last 14 years researching pedigrees and buying families that I like the conformation on and the character traits, and I've just ingrained my herd with those families, and then that makes it easier for me to choose bulls also, and what animals run with what bulls. We also do it by age group. That way it's easier to get the right feed for the right period of their life. So there's a weanling pen, and then they get fed a little bit heavier, and then there's a yearling to 2-year-old pen, which they get fed a little bit different, and then there's a 2 to 3-year-old pen, and then the mature cows don't need quite as much babying as the younger ones.
So once you have them categorized, how do you decide which ones you're willing to sell private treaty and which ones you want to keep for yourself?
Before I just sell any animal, I like to have several females out of that family so that I'm not losing those genetics. When I got into business, an old timer named Jerry Canfield told me he likes to have 2 daughters before he'll sell one of the daughters or the mother. And I've kind of taken that a little bit further. Usually I've got granddaughters before I'll sell anything out of that family. So that's the first thing I do is I look and see if selling this animal is going to hurt my, if I'm going to lose any of the genetics by selling that animal. The second thing I do is if I put it in a sale, I got to believe that it's going to be in the top third of the sale before I'll put it in there. When I take something to a sale, I want that to showcase to the industry what I'm breeding for and what I'm trying to accomplish with my program. If it doesn't do that, I don't want to take that to a sale. The expense of going to Texas and the consignment fees and the health papers, it just isn't profitable if you don't take something that's going to top the sale.
So when you are choosing which animal to put in the sale, we know you do your top end Longhorns. Are there certain things that you look for in those animals that you think, is it things that you think other people are going to like, or what do you look for in your your top tier animals.
Yeah, so when I look to put what animals I'm going to put in a sale, like I said, I want them to showcase my program, and the things I look for are, of course, in the industry, tip to tip sells. Uh, a lot of horn sells. People want a lot of horn. If you don't quite have the tip to tip, as long as there's a lot of horn there, that helps. Color, I want a flashy animal, an easy flushing animal. If they look good, they're going to sell good. And then I look and say, if that animal's in the sale and I didn't own it, would I try to bring it home? Is that something that I would buy and bring home? And then the last thing is if I don't want to sell that animal, if it's really going to hurt my program to take that animal and put it into a sale, and that means that's the one you want to sell. I mean, if I look out there and say, there's no way I'm going to sell that animal, that's the one that needs to go on the sale, because that's the one everybody's going to want. And that's kind of how I pick. Lots of times I'll narrow it down. If I look out at my herd and I say, out of them 10 animals, if I sell one of them, that's really going to affect my breeding program because of the quality of that animal. I'll bring myself to pick one of them to put in the sale.
So it sounds like you kind of follow your gut a little bit.
I follow my gut, and you watch the industry, you watch what people are buying, what's hot, and usually it's pretty consistent. Great conformation, color, tip to tip, and the fact that animal's a producer. If you can prove, like I had a cow named Triple R Miss Berry, and she, in my opinion, was the perfect Longhorn. She had laid out twisty horns. She was right at 80 inches. Her conformation was perfect. Nice bag. And I had a heifer out of her that won the horn showcase. And Brian Brett ended up selling for $40,000. When I found out that Brian Brett was going to put the daughter I sold him in the sale, I thought this is a perfect opportunity to sell that cow that has a little age on her. If they can sell back to back, that's probably the most she'll ever bring in a sale is at this time. She's getting at that age group, that 9-10 years old, where people are starting to consider them a little older cow. And if I want to get the top price out of her, I need to sell her right after her daughter sells for big money. And it worked. I mean, people seen what she produced and wanted her. So I'll do that too. I might check around and see what's going to be in the sale, talk to the consignor or the sale host, and see if there's anything related to my animals that makes it easier to market.
So has your gut ever led you wrong? Like, you just told us about a successful time. Have you ever been wrong about one and then kind of wished you hadn't let go of her?
Yeah, the first time that daughter sold, when I sold her as a yearling after she won the horn showcase, and I thought she'd bring a lot more, and she did. And but it was great. There's no better advertisement than a happy customer. Brian Brett ended up getting 3 heifers in a row out of her, and then turned around and selling her for 4 times what he paid me. So he'll be a return customer.
So let's talk about that a little bit with return customers. Now that you've told us how, you pick out your animals to sell at auction, walk us through a little bit how locally you get buyers out to the ranch and, try to make private treaty sales.
Okay. So the private treaty animals, it sounds funny, but Missy and I like our Longhorns so much, we don't like selling them. So usually when we sell a private treaty animal, it's because somebody has stopped by the ranch and is looking and wants to buy one. And then that gets us thinking about, all right, should we sell this or shouldn't we? And we'll end up putting a list together of what we're willing to sell. And it goes back to the same criteria as if I have enough families to get rid of one of those animals without hurting my program. The other thing we do is if an animal isn't good enough for my program, I won't sell it to another breeder because it's not good enough for theirs either. I don't want to sell somebody something that they're not going to be happy with, or something that they're not going to be excited about the offspring. So usually what happens is I'll haul something for somebody. They come to the house to pick it up. We end up walking through the herd. They like something, and we'll work out a deal. Then once we do that, we usually have return customers or word of mouth from them, and other people stop by. The only real advertising we do for private treaty would be either Facebook or Craigslist. So pretty much word of mouth through the industry is how we sell most of our private treaty animals. And like I said, we're not really looking to sell them. It's just because somebody stops by and I have to pick something.
So do you, when you pick something, because you are so, picky about what you'll let go, I don't know if picky is the right word, but you know what I mean? Picky sounds negative, but what you're doing is actually really awesome. Because it's so hard for you to pick something, knowing if you have that bloodline left, or, if you think it's a good enough animal, are you still able to price your animals out for all the different people's budgets, or do you feel like most of your animals kind of fall into one price range?
No, we have a pretty good range. And a lot of it is I'll look to see, the first thing I do when somebody comes and looks for animals, I say, what do you want to do with it? And once I know what they're looking to do, whether they just want a pet, yard art, they want to show locally, they want to show across the nation, are they looking, for Hudson Valentine style sale cattle, or just to hit some futurities? I like to find out what direction they're going, and then in my opinion, I'll try to match them up with something out of my herd that will fit that. And like I said, Missy and I, if I'm not excited about the calf that animal's carrying, they're probably not going to be excited about it either. So I want to see them be successful. So usually what we'll do is we'll try to put a package deal together where they buy 2 or 3 animals at a good price, a reasonable price, and I'll go back in the next spring in summer and see what they have for calves. And lots of times I'll make them an offer on the best heifer calf they have. So
To try to buy it back, you mean?
to try to buy it back. They fed them 3 cows all winter for me, and sometimes they'll sell them to me, sometimes they won't. But it works. It promotes them because I let them brand the animal. If I win a show with it that gets their brand out there, they make some money back the first year they have cattle, or right away. A lot of the people that buy from us private treaty are new or newer breeders. So if I can sell them good quality animals that I'd want to buy back from them, they feed the animals for me. They get a good start. I help promote their program by buying something back from them that has their brand on it. And I get to watch kind of what I was trying to do with the genetics and see how they develop. And it works. It's a kind of a win-win for everybody. And it makes it easier to get rid of the cows if you might have a chance at buying one of them calves back in the future.
So do you ever have breeders that come to you that don't really know what they're looking for? Like they don't know what to pick out and they kind of need more of a mentor than anything? Do you find like you do a lot of educating?
Yeah, all the time. A lot of times people show up and want to buy something for beef or a steer, and by the time they leave, they're looking for breeding animals. A lot of times people show up and want a steer, and I'll say, well, a steer, you got to let it grow out to be pretty. I can sell you a 4 or 5-year-old cow that already has a lot of horn, and if you sell the calf every year, it at least pays for the feed, and you still got something pretty to look at. And next thing you know, they're hooked. I'll say a big part of it is if people get involved with their local affiliates and can put small fun events together in the local area, it'll help you with private treaty sales, because most of the people I talk to, when I tell them we have a small fun futurity that they don't have to travel far for, where you can win a belt buckle or a rifle or some prize money, and it's no big deal. You can come down on a Saturday. You don't have to halter break them. You just come down, get a meal, show your cattle, get some bragging rights, and go home. That really perks their interest because that's something they can do that's fun. If they got kids, the kids can be involved, and it's exciting, and they don't have to have hotels. They don't have to travel a long ways. And when I let people know about that side of the industry, it gets them more interested in breeding animals and registered animals rather than just a steer to look at in the pasture. So there's a lot of education about what the industry has to offer when when I do my private treaty sales off the ranch.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
So Johnny, once you get these people to your place and they buy, their first couple of animals from you, what are some other things that you do for them or with them that gets them coming back?
Well, when we find out what direction they want to go, or kind of let them know what's out there, and they choose kind of what they're looking to do, they think might be fun. Missy and I are like a one-stop shop. If we've got extra vaccinations and we're vaccinating our calves, and we know that we just sold somebody a cow with a calf at side that's going to be weaned and vaccinated at the same time, lots of times we'll call them up and say, hey, you bought these cows from us. Some calves are all the same age as our calves. This is what we vaccinate with. This is what we worm with. This is our weaning process. Would you like us to come help you? And, vaccines come in 10, 20, 50 dose bottles. You always end up with a handful of doses left over. So a lot of times we'll try to do it the same time we do ours. We can do ours the same day. We can buzz over and hit theirs real quick for them. If that's not possible, we definitely make them a sheet of everything that they need to do. So they just have a checklist that they can go down. If they ever have a question or an issue, they can call us day, night, weekends, holidays, and we'll help them any way they can. We're, a full service breeder is kind of what we try to be, and it's worked really well. They're return customers, plus they tell other people to come find us. If they have issues with registering the calves in the years, we'll get a hold of the office and help them register stuff in the few, even if they've been in a year or two. When it's time for them to start marketing their cattle and selling, we help them with all that stuff. I want to see people be successful because they stay in it longer and they come back.
That's awesome. Do you feel like you kind of just learned that along the way since you've been in Longhorns for so long, or did one of your mentors, back when you got started, kind of walk you through how to do that for other people?
Up here in Michigan, we're a pretty tight group, and I don't think anybody ever explained it. They just lived it. So, most of the people that were founded in the industry when I got in were doing those things for me. If I needed something hauled, they'd help me haul it. If they were going on a trip, they'd invite me. If I had a question, they were there. People like Mark Hubble, Dick Lowe, Tom Smith, Dave Hoving, Henry Detweiler. The list goes on. I'm probably missing several, but all the guys up here were like that. So I think it was just I learned from the examples that were before me. That's just how the industry worked up here.
So when the title of this podcast is How to Sell Locally, but let's talk a little bit, because you mentioned again that you're in Michigan. What do you consider local? Like, how far are some of these people driving to be able to purchase Longhorns?
We have a pretty good core group, probably probably not many of them drive more than 2 hours. I do have people that are way up by Traverse City and the bridge that are, 5 hours away. But we have a pretty good local group within the 2.5 hour range.
And so what sorts of things do you do on Facebook or on Craigslist to reach those people?
Most of it is Missy is just out in our pasture a lot with the cows and just snaps cool pictures whether it's her rubbing on the cows or the cows coming up eating out of her hands or a new calf bouncing around, and is not even trying to sell. She just posts pictures of the animals, and that gets people interested, and they'll contact us. We'll talk on Facebook Messenger. They'll call. If it's the time of year, it's like, you know, it's getting to be fall. I'm looking at how much hay I got for the year, and I'm looking at my numbers, and it's like, man, I hate to, but I'm going to have to get rid of some if I want to make it through the winter. Sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and call some of them customers that have already been here and say, hey, it's that time of year again. If you want a deal, I might be able to work something out because of my hay situation. And usually they stop by and pick some out. And I'll tell you, I learned that from Dave Hoving. He did that with me a lot when I first got in. I'd want cows in the spring, and he'd say, no, I don't really want to sell them. And then come fall, he'd call and say, I got looking about how much hay I got. It's time for a fall sales season. Why don't you stop by and see if you're still interested in any of them? And he'd usually give me some pretty good deals.
So let's talk about that. You touched on it a little bit. So when you do have to cull, or you realize you don't have enough hay or that sort of stuff, what's your culling process? This is a little different than, I guess it wouldn't be as similar to you and Dave's situation where, you're going to sell them to another breeder. Maybe these are the animals that, didn't make your cut that you want, your brand represented on and stuff.
Yeah, when I call, I truly call. Selling to another breeder isn't calling. They're still registered. They're still in the breed. They're still going to the sales. When I call, they either get ground, they get sold as just a pet, yard art unregistered, or they go for rope and stock. I think that really helps the industry when you got cattle that may have bad feet, or they don't milk the greatest, or they don't breed back real easy, or they just don't have the horn shape or the look that's marketable, that looks like a Longhorn, to get them out of the registry. Don't take them to sales and have them bring the sale averages down. That stuff just gets people discouraged. When we call, we actually call the animals right out of the registry. I think that's the healthiest thing you can do for the industry.
So when you first got started, did it take you a while to, I guess, learn the process of which ones to send for beef, which ones to send for ropers, which one would make good pets? Because to me, you're still selling locally. You're just, it's not private treaty. It's just other things that you're doing with your herd to keep it profitable. So maybe you just touch briefly on some of those.
Yeah, it is a learning process. When you first get in, you're just so excited about Longhorns that you think they're all great. I mean, and they are. They're great animals, but people like Bob Loomis, when I first got in, you go down there, and that's the first thing he tells you. If you want to be successful, you call, and you call hard. And it works, because then people think all the stuff that comes off your place is awesome because they don't see your duds. And I hate to put it that way, but everybody has animals that aren't real desirable. No matter how hard they try, you're going to end up with some. So it's actually good marketing for yourself because people don't see them. And the other part of that is it's revenue. I mean, if you liked them all so much it was hard to sell, it wouldn't be fun. So I can sell 15 ropers, and that helps pay land leases and fertilizer and fuel, and they're gone. I don't have to feed them. If I sell the beef, that's money I can put back in. And you touched on when I first got in. Well, like I said, I got 5 kids and I'm a single income. So we don't have a lot of extra money to invest into the farm. So I would go and I would sell 3 or 4 call animals and take every penny of that and go buy one cow that I thought was better. And we've kind of grown our herd that way. I'll even do that now. If I sell 3 or 4 decent head, I'll take a lot of that money and just invest it right back into the farm to either improve genetics or equipment.
Johnny, have you ever taken any of the new breeders with you along to sales or anything to show them maybe what some of the other sales outside of the Midwest are like?
Definitely. Last fall, a new breeder and his wife flew down to the Hudson Valentine sale with my wife. I drove down with the cattle, and they flew down. I've took them to sales in Kentucky for charities. Usually, I mean, that's what people did for me when I got in,
Mm-hmm.
is offered free rides and tables at the events and stuff like that, just to show them what's out there. So I try to do the same thing. That's what makes this industry unique, is we've got stuff to offer that other industries don't. And a lot of people don't understand that. They just think they're a cow. But
Mm-hmm.
once they get out there and see everything that this industry has to offer, all the variety, the different routes you can take, it really gets them hooked.
Definitely. So you mentioned when you're talking to people locally, you know, they find you, I don't know if they find you on Craigslist or if they find you on from your website or whatnot, but do you advertise in newspapers or at other sale barns or anything locally trying to gain new customers?
Most of it's Facebook, a little bit on Craigslist. And like I said, Missy and I have grown our herd. We've bought some, but we haven't bought a ton. A lot of the large majority of the animals in my herd are wearing my brand. So I keep saying this, but we hate selling them. So we usually end up selling more a year than we actually plan on, just because people stop by from pictures on Facebook. Like I said, word of mouth from the customers that have had good experiences here. I do advertise in the trails, because when you do want to take something to a sale or something like that, animals that people are familiar with and have seen a lot, they're more comfortable with, and they're more likely to bid on them. If your name's familiar and the animal's familiar, they're just more comfortable. I don't know why it is that way. It just is. So I do advertise in the trails. I use my website quite a bit, especially out in the pasture once I get them to the house, because that makes it real easy to show the genetics, the progeny, any relevant animals to the ones that they're interested in. And once they see, it's kind of like a chess game when you're breeding. You're looking for the next move or the next cross or the next thing that's going to get you ahead of the guy that you're competing against. They really get intrigued, and my website really helps show all that.
So when they're out there, do you talk about the different traits that some of the different families offer, and what to look for in the offspring? Like, how do you do anything with that portion of breeding as well?
Definitely, and that's why I like the progeny option on my website, because I can show them what I did that worked. If I'll have a cow that has, the best thing is people say, well, I want cows this color. This is just a good example. And you'll say, well, these are Longhorns. And they're, yeah, well, I'd like to buy that cow because I want a black and white calf. I'm like, oh, okay. So I said, well, here's 3 full sisters. And there'll be a solid red one, there'll be a blue roan one, and there'll be a black and white paint. And I'll say that, and that was out of a mulberry roan bull. And then I'll take another one. I'll say, well, see that little solid red heifer? I'll get on my website and I'll say, yeah. And I'll say, well, that was out of a black bull and a black cow that was out of a black cow and out of a black bull. I said, you got 3 generations of black there, and I got me a solid red heifer. So I'll tell them, don't buy a cow because you think it's going to have a colorful calf, because the colors is hard to get as the horn. And it just kind of shows them, people like a challenge. And so if you can show them that, like I said, it's like a chess game, it kind of gets them interested.
Very true. So it sounds like you definitely take a lot of time with the new breeders that come to you, and you talk about a variety of things: branding, vaccination, pedigrees, everything. And that definitely is probably a reason that people keep coming back to you so frequently locally, and maybe even across the country as well.
One thing I've noticed that, and anybody that knows me knows this, is I get excited about the cows. I like talking cows. I like being around the cows. I like the events. And I've noticed that if I'm out in the pasture or I'm at the sale or show with these new people and I'm excited about the animals, it gets them excited.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, everybody just has a good time. If you ask Missy, it drives her nuts because I'm on the phone with people from Oklahoma, Texas, Virginia, you name it, all hours of the night, all day long, just talking cows because we're all just so excited about them. And that's what makes the industry really pop is when you can keep that enthusiasm about all the unique aspects of this breed. Because if you're excited and you can tell people how unique it is and why you're passionate about it, they're going to be passionate also. And I know Adam Clark, the other day we were talking about something, and he just said, "Man, you need to get into sales." And I'm like, "No, I wouldn't be good at any other sales because I'm not excited about other stuff."
Well, it sounds like you do a really good job with the local breeders, and I mean, the knowledge that you have about Longhorns is tremendous as well. Is there any last few words that you want to let people know of things that you do locally?
No, I think that's it. I mean, just to recap is if you tell somebody something, make sure it's true. And usually if something's not proved, like if if I have an animal that's done well in the futurities or those families do well in futurities and somebody wants to go that route, I'd lean more towards selling them one of them animals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to sell people a hope and a dream, just to make a sale. I know sometimes you get so excited about making a sale or you want to make one so bad that you might exaggerate or something like that. I try never to do that because I want my odds of what I tell them to be good. I want I want the odds to be in their favor when I tell them something that it's going to come true. And I think that's where a lot of times when people get excited about making a sale, they don't get return customers is because they might get a little overexcited and say things that are just a little bit embellished to make the sale, and then it don't come true, and the person gets discouraged. So I think the biggest thing is just to be straightforward, and I guess it's the golden rule: just treat them the way you wanted to be treated when you were a new breeder. Try to set them up for success so that they can make money in the first couple of years, so that they'll stay in the business instead of getting discouraged and getting out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to everybody.
No problem.